Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Levitt-Keaty. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Empire Building. I am so excited to be launching our scaling series. It's something that we get asked about quite often in terms of how do you grow a big business? How do you scale? And we're going to be diving into that. And how we're going to do it is every single first Monday of the month, you are going to hear us talking about all of the lessons we've learned with growing a big business, all the failures that we have ran into, and we're going to help you save literally millions of dollars through this series. So be looking for that every first Monday of the month and find out how to grow that big business. And you want to keep that big life, which is how you're going to scale right. So join us in on this series, and we can't wait to see you build that big business in an even bigger life. Hi, everyone, and welcome back today. You've got the 2 S's here.
You have
Sarah
the blondes.
and Say. Yes, the blondes.
The blondes are here today.
I'm excited. I always love recording with Seychelle, and today is going to be such a powerful topic. But before we dive in, the other thing Say and I both have in common is we're raising some girls. And so how is Quinn, and how's pre-nager/teenager life? Because I'm about to officially have a teenager in like less than 4 weeks.
I know. You have a teenager and I have a preteen turning 12 in a couple weeks. It's crazy. Number one, her legs are officially longer than mine. And I realize that doesn't take that much to do that. But we're officially there.
Yes. Well, there was a chance your child could have the same legs, although the likelihood because of Nick is probably very small. Nick's
genes are hardcore overriding mine.
Yes.
So, I mean, and I'm not mad about that. She's going to have great long legs, and wouldn't we all love to have that?
Yeah.
So yes, no, she's great. And we've gotten really fortunate so far in that I was listening to a podcast this morning, right? And you rise or fall to the level of your friends. And I feel so fortunate in middle school right now that her friend group is really kind. And the minute somebody starts kind of going off the rails to be negative, all of them in that group are really fast to shut that down. And I'm not saying you can't have bad days, but if they're talking negatively about someone else, be like, you either need to have that as a direct conversation or we're not going to talk about that. And so just some of these modeling pieces that we've learned as leaders on this podcast and some of the other parents that are also very encouraging it in the group. It's really cool to see that coming to shape for our next generation of female leaders. It's something I didn't have in middle school. I think it's a huge gift that this generation gets to have that. It's incredible. How about you? I know you've had some major busy weekends.
Yes. Yeah, Olivia, same thing. I mean, she has the most supportive friend group and so special. She basically has Empire Circle in middle school, and I'm like, what?
How incredible is that?
I know. But yeah, we've been all in on volleyball, and it's been so fun, and loving watching her compete. And I pulled up our episode about imposter syndrome that we recorded many
moons ago.
Many moons ago, to talk to her because she was struggling with that. And so we need to redo it. I would love to even do a teenager episode on helping them with imposter syndrome because even as teenagers, they go through it. But today, that's not what we're talking about. Although imposter syndrome could definitely prevent you from possibly scaling. But we are going to talk about scaling your business and how to grow. And, scaling is in the business world and the empire building world is definitely a sexy word. But if you're not ready for it, it can actually break what you've already built. So there have been many times where people try to grow, right? Try to scale, and they aren't ready. And then what happens is that their smaller business ends up also failing because they try to grow. And, my business, my overall business grew But my main location, DC Metro, we were serving about 1,200 families a year, number one team in the DC Metro, which we still are. But last year we dropped down to 800. And part of that is obviously, market conditions and things like that. But also, like, as I was scaling and growing other locations, the current locations can suffer sometimes. So today we're going to do something different. And before we actually dive into helping you scale your business, we're going to share today 5 essential questions every leader must ask and answer. So they're going to ask themselves and answer themselves before you scale.
I love this.
Because before you get into it, you got to ask yourself these 5 questions. And so that's what we're going to do today.
Well, I think this episode will save, if you're listening right now, this will save you millions, truly.
Yes.
Because not taking the time to slow down and do this part is the mistake that all of us have made that have cost us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But let us help save you millions of dollars in mistakes and make you millions of dollars faster by asking these questions. So Sarah, I love that she put this topic out on the docket, and I think it's so powerful. And this is one that if you're listening in the car, I want you to schedule some time on your calendar to go back and listen to this where you can journal your answers, because this one literally will save you so much money. So question number 1, which is an amazing foundational question, and we see this with our Empire Circle all the time, the question is, are you scaling chaos or are you scaling systems? Because when you grow and you put pressure on growth, it's going to magnify what already exists. It's going to magnify awesome things happening in your business, and it is also going to magnify a giant mess if you have it in your business. It's basically going to explode either one. And I can't tell you how many times I've had something blow up in my business over doing this. Sarah has too. We've seen friends of ours just explode their whole business over this. So going too hard, too fast and scaling can mean that it's either going to explode awesome or terribly.
You will scale either one, right? The chaos or the systems, right? But something that I remind our leaders on often is you don't rise to your level of potential, right? Or even your goals. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You actually fall to the level of your systems.
Yes.
And so you've got to have systems, right, that will scale versus an idea doesn't just scale. Right? An idea, a product, that doesn't just scale automatically, right? And so having those systems is so important. So are you scaling chaos or systems? Such a great question.
And an example of that for us was when I thought we had a really good agent training program. The agents that we have successfully trained up and into production are very successful. They go on to have amazing, long, successful careers. And so I was like, we are awesome. And then COVID happens and I couldn't strap an agent to my hip. And so I realized very quickly that so much of our training process was in person, together, not documented and videoed, and into a trackable system that somebody could flow through. And I know, Sarah, you guys have had the same thing with scaling your sales system as well, where now we have it into tracks of a weekly track that you follow with videos and an outline and an agenda and homework and but it took literally not being able to be in person for us to realize that our system was solely dependent on the human interaction and being together. And I think that's just an example of when we thought we had a system, but really it was living in our head and it was reliant on a person to do that. And if that person wasn't in the business, we lost the system. So if you think you have a system, but it can't operate with you not in it, it's not a system. It is you as a human. And that is okay. Just get it down.
Yes.
And recorded and on paper.
Some signs that maybe you're not ready yet, right, are exactly what Seychelle said, right? Tasks living in people's heads versus having a standard operating procedure on how that happens, right? They're called SOPs for short. If they're just if you're used to handing something to one of your team members and they've done the job for 5 years, and they know how to do the job for 5 years, and they're not using a SOP to do their job, then that is in their head. That's not a scalable system, right? So you're not ready yet.
And if they were to go on vacation,
yes,
and nobody else knows how to do their job, that's not a system.
Yes, correct.
That's the telltale sign.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the other big sign is if you are still in the weeds on operations. So often we see people that are in the weeds in the operating and doing of the business, and they think their first hire, we'll talk about this later, but the first hire should be a salesperson. If you're still in the weeds on the operations, your first hire is an operations person.
That's right.
It is not a salesperson that's just going to make your operations situation more difficult on you. So
Yes.
just remember too, if you're still in the weeds on the operations, you need to be looking at, scaling your operational system first, not trying to go explode into more sales before that's figured out.
Okay, so question 1, are you scaling chaos or systems, right? So take time, ask yourself that. Look at a lot of times people only think of their systems as operational, but Seychelle's example is such a powerful one, right? Sales training.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you have it built to where you could go into any city
Yeah.
and start training your system, right? And if you don't, like Seychelle discovered, and then she's now built it. I mean, Van Pool Properties can literally go to every city now
That's
and
right.
train agents on how to do it because of what she's built. And so are you scaling chaos or systems? Question number 2, why do you want to scale? This one's going to take more time probably and reflection. And this is a big one. And this is one that I had to give a lot of thought to originally when we were just in one city, right? Now we're in 10 and guys, I'm telling you, please listen. when Seychelle said these questions are going to save you millions, I've written the millions dollars worth of checks, okay, on this. And this is so important. What is the real reason, right? I mean, we saw, I don't know, probably hundreds of businesses in the early 2010s, that decade across Keller Williams that tried to expand, tried to scale.
Oh, big time.
And it was an ego war. Let's be real. Okay.
Yes, it
was an ego war. Who could get to the most locations fastest? Who could hire enough people to where all of a sudden they become number one? All of these things, right?
Yeah.
But when you looked, when their average location was making $30,000 a year.
Yeah. And they had millions of dollars flowing through.
Yes.
I mean, and overhead and
Yes. Okay. And they weren't impacting anyone, right? So are you wanting to scale for ego or are you wanting to scale for impact? Do you have the systems that can impact a lot of people, or are you wanting to do it just for your name to be in lights, right? And you got to reflect on it, because a lot of times, when it comes to ego, a lot of times we can hide it with other things. But why do you want to scale? Is it because of you, or is it because the impact that your product, that your system can make on other communities? And so give yourself some time and really ask that question.
I love that one. And to put that in a different way, it's, are you wanting to build with more clients and to serve more people in impact, or are you just wanting to make more money and have a different lifestyle?
Yes.
Because those are differences. And neither is bad. I'm not in judgment on either one, but you're going to scale very differently if you're trying to grow your lifestyle and that is the primary goal versus if you're working to gain more clients and make a bigger impact. No judgment around either one, but you're going to hire very differently and scale very differently depending on which one you're trying to do.
The other thing with it too is it tied to a clear vision? Is it tied to a clear mission? Is it tied to a very clear personal why, in terms of your mission, your personal mission? And so do some self-reflection and ask yourself, what's the reason? And as Seychelle said, there is no, there's no judgment.
Your answer is your answer.
Yeah, your answer is your answer. But I'm telling you, when you're in the thick of scaling and you've taken time to ask yourself this question, sometimes this is the only thing that's going to keep you going, because you can go back to this notebook when you reflected and say, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Let's keep going.
I also want to make a note too, my original why has changed. My initial why was a long-term vision of making sure that our family and the families that we were serving and our team members were all taken care of. But then once we were able to see that vision through, the big why that I got in there was to take care of my parents and provide for them and make sure that they could have, a life that they were wanting. And then that mission has changed because we accomplished that one. And so sometimes your mission has to get bigger. Your vision has to get bigger. You start out thinking this is the mission, and then you get there and you wonder why you're losing motivation. And it's because you accomplished that one that you set out to do. And now it's time to think differently. It's time to think bigger.
Have you had a chance to watch the Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozi interview, Seychelle?
Yes.
Okay. So it is so good about the power of significance and fulfillment over a number. And I think sometimes, I remember when I wanted so bad to be the number one team in our region, in the Virginia region. And that was a goal. And I had been telling the team we can do it and let's go out there, let's be number one. And then we got there and nothing changed. Like,
Dang
if
it.
clients don't care. Yeah. Like clients don't care. Like they could care less. They want to be number one. They could care less that you're number one. At the end of the day, it was like, okay, like I was chasing a number, right? It wasn't about necessarily fulfillment or significance. And when we tie ourselves to fulfillment and significance, and for me, it's all about giving back to worthy causes. And that's what drives me to keep going and all those things. Like now it's like that mission will never be accomplished, right? So like, because I've got to continue. And that's Sarah, right? That's for me. But the point is it can't be necessarily about a number or like once you get there, because once you get there,
It's there.
it's there.
You're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're there. Right. And so whereas like look for fulfillment, look for that bigger mission, that bigger vision, and dive deep into what it's going to take to get there. I mean, Alex Hormozy, one of the best business leaders of our times right now, I mean, he didn't have that. And that's what Tony Robbins, quickly identified. You can have a huge business and still be running it without a heavy significance.
Without a big why.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a false trap that a lot of people get sucked into. And I think that that's been a huge gift that our circle has given each other, is to really push ourselves to ask those questions and to take the white space and do that. And so if you don't have a circle that's pushing you, that might be your next step before you start scaling, is to find people to surround yourself with that are going to ask those questions to help you figure that out. So question number 3 is, as you're scaling, do you have the right people in the right seats? Are the right butts in the right seats? And scaling means you're delegating, right? And delegation only works if your team is strong. And so you don't want to go out and hire a ton of you to be operations, right? You need to understand the hiring process. You need to understand like what makes people tick. But really at the very base of where you want to start is, are the people you are hiring, are they aligning with your core values? Are you all rowing in the same direction when no one is looking? Are the decisions being made ones that they intuitively are thinking similarly to the way you are? You can train them on what decision to make, but do they default on a core value level to a similar core value that you do? Because that's a very hard one to change. I've hired people that didn't align and I thought I could work around it. I'm sure you have too. And then you realize they're making decisions that you would never in a million years make. That you can't train them on, I can't teach someone how to think, right? I can teach them what to do, but I cannot teach them how to think when it comes to like initial core values. So do you trust them with the outcomes that they're going to go after, that you're going to trust them to go run with? Not just, can they do the simple tasks? Can they check my email? Can they respond with a template? Those are two very different hires.
Yes.
Especially when you're scaling.
Yes. And this is a question you want to ask before you scale, right? This is the third question you want to ask before you scale, because there is not one human on the planet that has been able to scale a business by themselves. It's not possible. And so if you don't have leaders, team members that are aligned with your values, as Seychelle said, if you don't have team members that you trust to own an outcome, right? Like, we need to serve 50 families a month. And here is the leader that's going to own the outcome of serving 50 families a month, not just can they write a contract, right? A task, right?
Right.
And so if you are alone in that, if you're owning all the outcomes of your business and then have a lot of people that own tasks, which of course,
tasks are important, but that is a different hire.
Tasks are important.
It's a different hire.
Yes. Yep. And so making sure that you're asking yourself that question, because you're not going to scale alone. And so you need to create your team. And we're going to dive more into that in the next episode that we're recording around scaling. But it's so important. So that was question number 3. Question number 4, this is one I see most miss. Okay. Before they scale, they don't think about. They think about their why many times. They've got great people, okay? And so they feel like they're ready, okay? Is your client experience worth multiplying?
Ooh.
Not can it multiply,
Yeah, that's good. Like, do you need more of this
Yeah,
experience?
exactly. Yeah. Or is this part of the chaos? Like, it's just going to be multiplied, right? Is it worth multiplying? One of the best books, and it's really a book that's like a foundation of Empower Home. It's called Remarkable. My number one strength is competition, and I love to compete, and competition really drives me. But that book actually changed the way I view competition. And I'm a very different leader from that book. And it's so much of it is about the client experience and how there should never be competition because you out client experience your way there, right? It talks about how Chick-fil-A like shines when it comes to their client experience compared to like a McDonald's, right? And how they were able to literally eliminate their competition just by focusing on the experience that their client has. And so is it worth multiplying?
Well, and I love it too because your experience creates a raving fan. It creates a repeat customer. So with less effort, you're creating more business. And that's what Chick-fil-A discovered.
Yes.
I think that's something that you have really focused on. And your business is not only scaling with people that don't know you, but how do we get more business from people that do know us and like us and trust us? I mean, and that was why we created our raving fans business, like program with our business. And if you can make one customer into 3, right, that's far more effective at scaling than if you're constantly having to go get one and then one and then one and then one. And that's the secret of Chick-fil-A is, you have people mad they're not open on Sundays because they want to go back on Sunday. That is a raving fan wishing you were open more days during the week and creating that demand. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah. You don't want to multiply mediocrity. Right? I mean, that's not worth it. It will ruin your reputation and your brand. And so the client experience, is it worth multiplying? One of the things that we built here in DC Metro that has helped really catapult our business in all 10 locations that we serve is that we have a proprietary like buyer matching system. And we built it to where like we built the technology for it. We built the system to where we are saving what buyers are looking for, where they're looking at a very high level. And then we're matching when we get a listing to those buyers before they ever go on the market. That's an example of a client experience for sellers that want to sell their home to a traditional buyer, but they don't want to go on the market. And that is a system that Empower Home built that now has scaled across all of our locations to where every location we serve, we're helping sellers sell their home to buyers off market through our buyer matching system. That's an example of like a client experience.
Well, and I think what's great about it is it's containable. You've built it into a program and then it becomes replicatable.
Yes.
And that's how that becomes kind of a flywheel of a system that can scale. And when you think about that, your whole process may be difficult to scale, but if you can get ninja specific at scaling pieces one step at a time, which is what Sarah's describing there, it becomes really, really powerful. And it becomes a secret sauce that then you can take and deliver to another location or to a bigger location inside your own market.
Yeah. And that client experience had to be worth multiplying, right? We had to know that there's a lot of sellers in every market that wants that. And so that's worth multiplying. Now I have another example of what we didn't do well that we now have fixed on this. Okay. But and why this is a question before you scale is because it's way harder once you have scaled and grown and you're maybe in multiple markets and it is way harder to fix the client experience if it messes up. So we started expanding to other markets in a very lower days on market across the country. Okay. So we mainly hit the gas on scaling in 2021. And I mean, you didn't have to do a lot to sell a house in 2021. Okay. Across every market we're in. And we did not have a awesome client experience of sellers when their house was on the market 90 days, 100 plus days, right? In terms of communicating with them about their home sale, like 20 days in, 40 days in, 60 days in. And so we had to quickly put it together and we did move fast and I'm proud of my team for doing that. But that's an example of a system that should have been built before we started going to new markets.
For sure. But you also don't know what you don't know. I mean,
yes.
I think about that, like that's, if you hadn't been in that market in a long time and you were raised and I was raised in that funky market, and then we had a 7 to 10 year stretch of not that market, and you're scaling during that time, your operations people likely had not experienced that market like you had. And so that was just an experience gap that they hadn't been through. And thankfully, you had the wisdom and mentors and all sorts of people that you could draw from and knowledge yourself to be able to do that.
Yes.
And I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but maybe some of our listeners, right? Like you're in a like lower days on market still today. And if you expand or if you grow, if you scale to another market that is slower, is that client experience worth multiplying? That's a question we want you to ask, right? And if the answer is no, then you know what to work on, right? That's all something about these questions.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. Now, question number 5. This one was so good, Sarah. It was like a kick in the pants. It's so good because it's like, man, you need this question. Is your life aligned with the scale you are asking for? Said another way, scaling your business should not shrink your quality of life. And how many leaders have we seen that start growing and their hours worked grows, their exhaustion grows, their time with their family shrinks, their time for joy and travel and play, their health suffers, right? Because every other area in their life is having to shrink to basically fit around the scale and size of the business that is growing. And so we want you to ask the question, do I have the energy to scale? Do I have boundaries around my relationships and my energy to scale, right? How are my relationships right now? What do I love about them and what am I not willing to sacrifice, right? Are my self-care habits able to be sustained as we're growing? And I'm going to give you a hint. Your answer is probably going to be no if you ask that question right now. It probably will be. But having that self-awareness around it is so huge because once you start growing, it's going to test everything. It tests your business, but it's also going to test all of the cool, awesome things that you love about your personal life that you need to be really clear on if you're not willing to give those up, and then scale the business around that so that it doesn't overtake it and sacrifice it.
Yeah. Nothing tests marriages, your relationship with your kids, your health, your leadership like scaling.
Yeah.
It will test it. It will try to break it. And if you don't ask that question, like, is your life currently aligned, right? Like we just had a situation where we had an agent that joined us that knows me through her best life and joined one of our locations. And we just recently parted ways with her. She was with us for a few months and we parted ways. And anytime we part ways, no matter whose decision it was, we always do an exit interview.
Yeah.
And in the exit interview, she shared, that it would be really nice if Sarah needs to visit every location we're in once a quarter.
That's 40 trips a year for you.
Yes.
To put that in perspective right now, and you're going to be in 100 locations. So that will be 400.
Yes. Yeah. Seychelles, like, heck no, is what her circle says.
Like, I can do math.
Yes. And I read that and my immediate response was, this agent doesn't care about my marriage, my kids, my health, my leadership, because that's impossible, right? That request is impossible. But the awesome thing is she wasn't a match for our team, right? And our team is still serving lots of families in that location because I have leaders on the ground. I don't need to be there, right?
No.
And if she was wanting just me, right, she joined the wrong business. Okay. She's not one of my kids and I'm not married to her. Okay. Yeah. And so that's who gets me all the time, as much as possible. Right. And so like the point is like, if your life is not aligned for scaling, right, then you got to pause and you know what you need to do before you start. Okay. Cause it will destroy. And the part about the One Thing book that I love so much. And I remind our teammate about it often. And you guys have heard me talk about it here on the podcast as well, is like, it's that glass ball. There's so many things. Your business, the ability to scale, like you can always have that.
It's a rubber ball. It'll bounce.
Yes, it's a rubber ball. It will bounce back. Okay. But those relationships with your kids, with your spouse, your health, right? Like I still think about like, man, if I would have just lost weight faster, if I would have taken, like I know I would live longer. Right. And thankfully I've done it now, but like I would have still saved so much. It's your glass ball. Don't drop the glass balls just for the sake of building, right? And so ask yourself these questions. So let me recap them here. We've got Are you scaling chaos or systems? Do you know why you want to scale? Like, why do you want to scale? Is it ego? Is it impact? Right? Do you have the right people in the right seats? Is your client experience worth multiplying? And then the last most powerful question, is your life aligned with the scale that you're asking for? Is your life aligned around that? Right? Okay, guys. Well, this was so fun. Seychelle.
I love recording with you. This is so good. Go listen to this like 4 times, you guys. This is so good.
I'm going to listen to it because as we enter into, we're about to launch our 11th location. As we enter into, we have not launched a location in 3 years. As we enter into it, I think these questions are so powerful. I'm going to pause. I'm going to ask them myself. But scaling's a blessing when it's built on a strong foundation. If you take time to ask yourself these 5 questions, you won't just scale. What's going to happen is you will soar. And you will soar faster than every other competitor because you hit pause, you asked yourself this question, and you reminded yourself that it's not just about building a big business, it's about building an even bigger life. So take time block some time, ask yourself these questions, do journaling, as Seychelle said, and get out there and let's build big businesses, but let's not forget that big life. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.